Step number 2 on the Panda fix is replace the rad fan. And this is an unboxing video which excites many people. So on to a few things on Black Betty. Now, this coolant reservoir was absolutely empty when I picked it up. Topped that up before I drove it home. But what I did notice when we were driving through town on the way back to the house from its cross-country jaunt was that the temperature started to rise in the town traffic. And with previous experience with other little Fiats like the 500 and the Panda Cross, is that the fan did not come on even with air conditioning running. Now that's not normal for the Fiat 1.2 8-valve engine, which this is. Now I have downloaded some software called Multiscan ECU. I have also used my top-down Art Diag 600S to run some tests. There are no obvious faults. I did try an actuation test with my laptop, and I can hear that the fuses and the relays for the fans trigger. However, the fan down there does not switch on. What I'm going to do is test with the voltmeter the power that goes to the switch on the back of the electro fan.
A few moments later,
when the fan test is activated, I get 12 volts at the plug. What I'm going to do now is try and test whether or not the fan motor is still working, because the fan itself is actually free, so that means that the motor is not seized. But it doesn't mean that the motor actually works. So because I've got 12 volts at the plug, my suspicions are that this little motor is goosed. I'm going to disconnect this plug down here. There you go. There is a little locking pin on it which you've got to pull off first. So now I've got access to 2 receptors down the bottom there. I know that the bottom wire, the bottom connector, is 12 volts and the top one will be the earth. So what has been suggested to me on the Fiat forum is to test this earth. I think the earth is fine, because if I put 2 prongs in there, I get 12 volts on the actuation test. My suspicions are this engine is goosed. So I'm going to put 12 volts directly to this fan with 2 little spade connectors and see if that fires up. To make a bit more space, I'm going to take this airbox off. It's actually not that secure, I've got to say. It looks about a 10 or 12. It's a 10. There are 2 of these little 10mm bolts, but the fixture on the other side is actually broken. This is the other side, but you can see that this is broken. So this is actually loose. Pop that off, and it's a hell of a mess. Look at all that. Gee whiz. That's a little bit messy, isn't it? Throttle body is pretty filthy. I'm loving this bodge on the oil filler cap. Why is that screwed in there like that? It's also broken. Okay, I'll have to order up another one of those. Okay, let's get that in there. Alright, back onto the task at hand. test that fan. So that is neg, earth connected. Pop that on the posi. This fan only has 2 pins, so positive and negative. Connect the other side of this to the battery. So I have my 2 test wires hooked up to the 2 male connectors in the fan engine there, the fan motor. I have my negative to the battery negative. This is my positive, which is going to go to there, and then we will see if this fan works. There's the fan. So I'm going to connect this up to the positive now, and nada. I'm going to give these connectors a bit of a blast. So what we have down here is the ballast resistor for the fan. Now, I'm not 100% certain of the wiring for this. If this is faulty, then it's possible that that might be the reason why the fan is not switching on. Now that I've given that a blast, let's see if I can loosen these. There we go. That's one off. Okay, red and black at the bottom, blue at the top. That one's still a bit stuck. There we go. No, they look okay. Now, I'm not sure how this ballast resistor plays a part in things. I suspect it has to do with the 2 different fan speeds, which are controlled by the ECU. I don't think it has anything to do with the signal going to the fan, but I could be wrong. So let's test the ground, which I think is this ground over here on the front chassis member. I think the ground for the fan is this one over here. I've got my voltmeter here, and I'm going to turn it on to the buzzer so I can test for continuity. Continuity should give me an indication that the wire is okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't damaged, because sometimes you can get continuity, but then when it passes current, it doesn't actually pass enough voltage down it. But I am testing a ground in this case, and all I wanted to do is this. That means that the 2 ends of these prongs are in effect connected to one another, even if there is a wire that's between the 2. Not alloy, of course, but metal. Now, according to the diagram, this is the possible ground point on the chassis rail over here for the fan. It seems the only likely candidate, as I cannot see anything else down there. On the diagram it's labeled C045, if I remember correctly. So what I want to do is I want to go from the wire down here, making sure I'm connecting to the earth side, the black side, and then I want to connect to this point here, and I hear nothing. So here is my connector for the fan. It has 2 wires, red and black, which you can see here. I've just removed the conduit from it just to make 100% sure that it does in fact run back to the chassis rail. And this is the black wire. So I've got a little white wire, a little blue and black wire, a blue wire, the red and black, the red and black, and the black. And if I pull this conduit all the way off to this connector over here, these are the only wires that exist. I think what happens here, where this tape is, this join, that's where the red and black comes up to the resistor over there. This is the blue wire, which is that thick blue wire there. So the only black one in here is the one that passes through this to the plug. So I'm going to take a little bit more of this rotting fabric tape off and see if I can find a break.
A few moments later.
So now that I have all of these wires exposed, this is my black wire that I'm trying to test, that goes to the body over here. It went through a nasty kink just over there, which doesn't feel very good. So now if I insert the one end into here and I put the probe down there, I get continuity now. Which makes me wonder, I might just cut this piece of wire out and put in a new one. But I think the first thing I'm going to do is pull that earth off the chassis rail there and give it a good clean with some sandpaper. Get in there and take this earth point apart. Alright, let's clean it up. I think a lot of electrical problems, especially intermittent ones, could be caused by broken wires, as I've discovered on my camper van. Here's a bit of rust on that mounting point. Put the earth point back in place now, just to test it. It's not very far from the battery, so I can always run an earth directly to the battery. It's not the first time I've had to run wires in a Fiat, but then again, I've had to run wires in all sorts of cars, not just Italian ones. Alright, let's give it a test. That's the sound I'm looking for. Grab the connector. Let's see what we got. What's interesting is if I earth it to the body, I don't get a continuity. If I earth it to the post now, I get connection, whereas before I didn't. But it's not a wonderful connection. I have to be exactly precise. Let's try the fan. I'm just going to reconnect this main connector here. It does have a locking pin, which I'm not going to replace at the moment. That just slides in over there, and you just pull it out, and then you pinch it and slide it off. Sometimes these can be a bit tricky. Right, so let me start the engine with the air conditioning on, and hopefully it will work. The fan should engage when the air conditioning's on, because I know that from the 500s that they both do that. It's still nothing. I'll leave it for a bit and see if the fan switches on. And what do you know? The fan is running. So it looks like the problem there was that earth wire not properly earthed. I still might change that. I'll switch the engine off and try it again. Now the car is off, but the fan is still running. And you can hear, I wouldn't call that a happy bunny. For the sake of 50 quid, I think I might just change that. But let's check it just one more time. So I've got air conditioning on, full. Car's in neutral, of course. Let's give it a crank. Right, air conditioning is on, full. Let's have a look and see what that fan does. Well, the fan is currently not on. Let's see how long we have to wait. Still no fan. Still no fan. Still no fan. I would have thought that the fan should have engaged by now. What happens if I spin it? Nothing. Yeah, not sure. I think I'm just going to get a new fan, I think. Temp is still fairly low, but the fan came on before. Still no fan.
3 days later.
Panda get new fan.